Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Nathan Wilson, Driving Dreams here in Central Florida. I'm going to try to make a quick video. You guys know how that goes. The Dorman motor swap for the window regulators. So these are out of a 64. You can do this swap in any of the years. However, 66 and 67, your life is a lot simpler and you can just buy this Cardone motor and it bolts right up. So, but in the 65 and backs, they don't make anything like that, so you have to get a little bit creative and make some modifications to your regulator. So this is an original motor here, and I have a part just so I can show you guys. A lot of times, I would say 80% of the time, you can actually make your original stuff work. So sometimes, like if your window's just a little bit slow, I would probably say 70 to 80% of the time that problem can be solved without even messing with this. And most of the time it's your regulators, your rollers aren't really spinning, they're worn out or flat, you know, they've gone flat spots because something went wrong over the years. Or the tracks are just totally gummed up with grease or something, or they're out of adjustment. So in my experience, the probably number one thing is tracks are a little bit out of adjustment, things aren't right, the windows aren't lining up right, somebody took it apart over the years, they put it back together, they didn't get everything, you know, just right where it's, you know, able to roll smooth. Number two, I would say most common problem is the tracks are gummed up with grease and these rollers are messed up and they're really not rolling the way that they should. Like this one, for instance, is kind of, you know, not really rolling like it should spin freely like that. So the next most common, I would say, would be the grease inside of here in this gear housing. So if you take this off, you know, watch my other video about the dangers of this spring right here. It's super dangerous, chop your fingers off, watch that video. But once you get this off, you just take this little, it just pops right off and there's nothing holding it on. And you can clean this gear up real good, wire brush it, sandblast it, whatever. Take this worm gear out here, you can clean that all up, get all the old gunky grease, because this stuff turns into like glue over the years and it gets a bunch of junk and trash in there and whatever, and it just, you know, it turns into glue basically. So you clean all that up, you put some fresh grease in there. A lot of times that will solve your problem between that and all those adjustments. If you have to take this motor apart, it's not a big deal, don't be scared of it. It's a little, you know, different than a lot of motors because they put these rubber coatings on them, which is fantastic. That's what makes a Lincoln, you know, a Lincoln. They took those extra steps, and that's why these motors will hold up for 100 years, like literally 100 years. These things will still be going. It's already been 50 something, and most of them still work. So if you have to take it apart and clean the brushes, sand the inside, do some little, you know, cleaning up all the copper connection points and stuff like that. I'm sure there are a lot of YouTube videos on how to, you know, rebuild a DC motor. You can buy the brushes for a few bucks online, put some fresh brushes in there, clean that out, put this back together. By the time you do those two things, this window 90% of the time will be good as new. It's going to function. These things were really well built, and in my opinion, I mean, just my personal opinion, I would rather do that and have this original equipment than to have the brand new Chinese Dorman motors. I mean, you see the size, right? So this is these were just built right. But you know, I'm a fan of all the original stuff, as you guys know. However, as you can see, I will do this, you know, on occasion if the customer wants it. A lot of people just have it in their head they want brand new motors. So that's fine, and these will work just fine, and most likely they'll work the rest of the time that you have your car until you die. So either way, whatever, you know, pick your poison. The couple of adjustments that you are going to have to make is you'll see that this motor, it's a little too fat to, it doesn't really fit on the regulator just right. It's this part here, you see how that kind of sticks up? So that won't let it you know, sit flat on the regulator. So you can see where I notched this out. You know, just use a cutting disc or a plasma cutter or whatever you have and notch that out so that this will fit. You also have to drill 3 new holes because these, there's one on the other side, these holes don't line up with the original holes. So you got to lay it out, mark your 3 holes, and then you know, cut out the notch here so that it'll fit. The other thing is these are 2-wire motors, whereas the originals were 3 wires. What that means is you will have to wire up 2 relays, to reverse the polarity. So I'm sure there are videos on YouTube. I think I even made one a while back about how to wire relays for reverse polarity. You can take two regular Bosch style relays you can get for a couple bucks each online, and you just wire them up to reverse the polarity, and you know, use your original switches. You can use these little deals that I've used in some cars. These actually fit right into the slots. You can use those if you want. Again, a lot of guys want brand new, so this is a brand new switch. I'm sure it'll last the rest of, you know, their lifetime. Again, I prefer to rebuild the originals, but it is what it is. So you could do brand new motors, brand new switches, you know, and you have new modern stuff. So what else? That's about it. I guess if you guys want, maybe I'll take a video of the whole process so you can see it, but that pretty much explains it. And so I'll see you guys next time. Alright, so you guys have probably seen the video of the spring jumping and, you know, can chop your finger off type deal. So this is a slightly better way to do this. You have to be able to get to the bolt, the third bolt here, to take this off, which is a good thing, because if you could get to it easily, everybody would take those bolts off, and when that last bolt comes off and this motor flies, there's nothing to hold this gear, and it can be dangerous. So if you have a vise, put it in a vise, kind of position it to where as you run this motor, this will hit the vise and stop, so it doesn't go flying and pieces go everywhere. Use your power probe. I guess you could use jump wires. Probably said it a million times before. If you have a Lincoln, get yourself a power probe. This is the hook. I have the 3 over there. I'll show you in a second maybe. The Power Probe 3 is just fine. This one's a little more expensive. The only thing I like about this one is you can run up to 65 amps. So like when I'm running a convertible top motor or something, it also reads out like how many amps you're using, ohms, does you know, fuel injectors and shit like that. This one does a little bit more than the 3, but the Power Probe 3, they have a master kit. Definitely get that. But without getting too sidetracked, if you don't have one of these, you can do this with just jump wires and, you know, a car battery or whatever 12-volt source you have. So you'll want to kind of get yourself out of the way and run this motor down. You see this gear moving. You're going to run it until it runs out of teeth. And if you have it positioned right, like you see how this is pretty close to this, so it's not going to do a whole lot of flying around. It's just going to let go and stop there. So that prevented that. Now when you loosen the vise, obviously there's still, you can see there's still some tension on this, so you're going to want to get a pretty good grip on the assembly. Kind of keep your fingers away from this part just in case. Loosen the vise and pull it out. So let me see if I can do that on the camera. So that's it, and you let that spring back around, and then everything doesn't fly across the shop and, you know, throw stuff to hit you in the eye. So on to the next part. Alright, so next step, take this spring off so that you get a little more movement here and you can access all of the bolts. Take the original motor off that you're going to be using to release the regulator and the spring and everything. And actually this is not, you could leave that on there depending on what your next step is. I'm going to be using these motors for other things, but you could leave this together because it all comes off as one piece. I'm going to actually use that motor for the next one. 3/8. And go ahead and take the regulator part off. The worm gear part. So that's that. And then you're going to take your new motor and just basically line it up into the hole. Not sure how much of this you can see. Get it as close as you can. In my experience, we'll let this hang off the edge of the table so you guys can see that. So in my experience, it's best to have this, and it's not going to, you know, fit because you haven't cut that regulator yet. But this bump right here, this ridge, that's what I typically use as a guide of where to put the motor. You see, you could do it at a lot of different angles. The one issue is, like, if you know, you don't want any of this interfering with the regulator as it comes along here. And then if you go really weird, there's usually pretty much a lot of room in the door, so I don't think you would hit anything like that. You could probably do it this way on this notch here. If you go like weird, like a little bit off on one of these notches, the bolts, when they come through, kind of, they can sit a little cockeyed, and it can also interfere with this regulator. So this is the way this is notched out on the back. This allows that flat bolt, which comes with the kit, and I'll show you in a second, to not really interfere with this regulator. So I don't know if that makes sense, but as you start to do it, it will. So what I'll typically do next is I'll get a smaller drill bit, like a 1/4 inch or 3/16 or something, that'll fit through this hole, and see if this thing's still recording. Oh, man. And I get it lined up pretty damn close to where I want it to be, and I just use the drill bit to kind of make my marks. Try not to let it move too much, and then that's pretty much it. So and I'll go ahead and drill my holes. No sense in, you guys watching me drill holes, but I'll start with a smaller drill bit, and then I usually do, I think, a 5/16. That's a little bit bigger than the bolts, I think, are 1/4 inch or so, but that gives you a little bit of play so you can get it lined up right. And let's do that. I'll drill the holes and we'll go into the next step. Alright, so next you want to install your bolts. Your motor should come with 2 bolts like this, and then a bunch of shorter ones like this, which you won't be able to use. So you're going to want to find 1 bolt. That's just one out of my cabinet. It's a 1/4 20. 1 extra, kind of an inch long or so bolt, and a lock nut. And so you'll put the two flat ones up here closer to where the regulator is going to spin around, because you're not going to want it to hit those. And then the other bolt on the end there, where it doesn't matter because the regulator won't be anywhere close to it. So we'll move on. And I usually grind these flat. I'm not sure if you'll even be able to see it on the camera, but these are kind of raised just a little bit, and it might not seem like much. It's maybe a millimeter or 2, but anything to help get a better bite on this gear here. So if I raise those, if I grind those down, even if it gives me 1 or 2 millimeters where the regulator bites this better. So probably not 100% necessary. It also helps the motor kind of sit flat on there. So just grind those smooth. Just that fast, so it works a little better. Alright, so we got the motor bolted up, and now it's time to get it to connect with the regulator. So we'll put the spring on, and you want to make sure you get this. It's going to be very tight. If you do it too loose, your window might not go up so well. So this is like really tight and hard to spin around. So you get it set up, and then you come over to the vise. Alright, so you want the spring to be pretty damn tight, so you may need help to get this in the vise. Alright, go ahead. That's good. Alright, why are you jumping back? Alright, so you get it in the vise like that. We're going to pull it around super tight and run the motor. So, alright, so now to get it to engage, you get your power probe or your jump wires or whatever you have, and you get it set up to run. Let me raise this a little bit. You get it set up to spin that direction, and you pull this. I'll try to do it out of the way so you guys can see. You get it close, you run the motor until it engages. So that's that. And now it should go both ways, and you're done. Just be careful that that you don't go too far. So you're gonna wanna, like, as you get it in there, I usually do it pretty close to all the way, what would be all the way up, because 90% of the time that's how you're gonna have the window in there. you know, as you're trying to hook up the window and get everything on track, you're going to want to do it with the window in the up position. So that's that, man. That's the end of it. Be careful, be safe, and hope the video helped you guys. See you next time. Just wanted to add this real quick. I'm getting ready to clean these up and paint them and put new rollers on. So this roller, most of these actually are working just fine. They were still spinning and everything's fine. But you know, you're this far in, why not replace them? So this roller is completely seized up. It won't move at all. In fact, I can't even get it off. I'm probably gonna have to just break it. It's just totally like seized to the little tab here. So this tab, what you'll want to do is clean this, you know, get some sandpaper, clean this nice and shiny and clean. Put a little bit of grease on there when you pop that roller on, and you won't have any problems for the rest of your life. But this type of stuff is what you're trying to find and remedy, because this is a problem. You know, this is just going to slide in the track, and eventually it's going to wear down flat spots and stuff, and just make everything stick and not move right. So, oh, and these rollers, don't buy them from the usual suspects just because they say they're made for a Lincoln. They're $12 a piece. That's ridiculous. These come out of a lot of old Fords, so just look up old Ford window rollers. I think Mustangs and Galaxies and all that stuff use the same ones. They're pretty damn cheap, so if you're this far in, why not do it? Alright, so I just wanted to show this to you guys. This is the roller that came off of here, and it just does not move. And so for whatever reason, it got a little corrody and gross in there, and it got super rusted around here. And between the two, this roller does not move on there. So even with one of my brand new rollers, I'll put it on this way just so you can see, even the brand new roller, like, it has a hard time spinning. I know you can't tell that on the video. So take you know, 1 minute that it takes. Less than a minute, but you know, if you're doing it by hand, it might take you a minute or 2 minutes. And then you go ahead and take yourself a little bit of grease. Don't have to go too crazy with it. And then go ahead and pop your roller on. And the difference is night and day. I mean, you can't tell in the video, but it's spinning completely free. I used to, well, one time I powder coated these because I'm just crazy like that, and it did okay, but I felt like it maybe almost like in here and stuff kind of affected it, made it a little thicker, and it kind of affected that. So this, I'll do the same. I'll kind of sand down a little bit, clean up, and then put some grease in there so that slides, because you can even see the wear mark where it kind of slides against the metal there. And then I'll put a bunch of globs of grease down in there, and everything will be nice and smooth for the rest of our lives, and our great grandkids might be doing this again in 80 years.